Hi everyone and welcome to my channel, Nobody Asked Chris. If you're a first time watcher, Nobody Asked Chris is a channel where I'll be giving my unwanted opinions on random topics such as movies, TV shows, music, or whatever other topics I think I want to talk about during the week. And in addition to those things, I'll also be periodically updating you all on my lock journey. So this week's video is going to be about The Legend of Korra, which was just released on Netflix, I want to say about a week and a half ago. And I had to talk about it. Okay. So The Legend of Korra is a 4-season series which ran from 2012 to 2014, and it follows the adventures of the Avatar whose name is Korra. The Legend of Korra is a continuation of a previous series known as Avatar: The Last Airbender. If somehow you haven't heard of Avatar: The Last Airbender, it was an animated show on Nickelodeon which ran from 2005 to 2008. So Korra was born in the Southern Water Tribe as a waterbender. She is, I want to say her personality is I don't want to say it's like the complete opposite of Aang's personality, because they both do still have that drive to help people and they do still care about people and they put others' needs above theirs. But I do want to say in terms of aggressiveness, they are different. Aang, and it makes sense because Aang was an air nomad. He was raised at the Southern Air Temple by monks who taught him everything he knew about like spirituality, non-violence, peace, everything like that. They were very much a pacifist. They were very much a nation of pacifists, and so Aang, growing up that way, I mean, he had lived with them for 12 years, so he was bound to adopt those certain traditions. Korra, on the other hand, wasn't raised in that environment, and while she was raised by a combination of her parents in the Southern Water Tribe and the White Lotus, which is like, I want to say like what, an organization to help protect and serve the Avatar. They, like, she didn't get that same kind of environment / background that Aang got, so of course she's not going to have the same philosophies of like non-violence, talk it out first and then violence is the very last step type of thing. She's a very aggressive, passionate, in-your-face type of avatar, which I personally love about her. I love how like she is not the exact same type of avatar that Aang was, because I mean, they're two completely different people. Despite them both being the Avatar, they're their own people, they have their own experiences. So I really appreciate that about Korra. You know, she's very hard-headed. She does what she wants when she wants, and you know, and sometimes these qualities, I feel like in some characters these qualities can seem like upsetting and like really irritating, but in Korra it's because she has that same passion for helping people, and most of the reasons why she does these things is to better herself, to help others, and to be a better avatar for others. But these like aggressiveness and like these other types of personality traits become a little bit more endearing because we see why she's doing it and just how much she cares about other people. So enough of the analysis about Korra. We're going to talk about the first season of The Legend of Korra and why Amon, the season's main antagonist, was correct. So Legend of Korra, it takes place many years after the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender. We see Katara, and she's really old, she's wrinkly. Katara and Aang have had, Aang is obviously dead because because the Avatar has been reincarnated into Korra. Katara living in the Southern Water Tribe. She and Aang have had 3 kids, and their youngest son is an airbender like Aang, whose name is Tenzin. Tenzin is like the main child of Aang and Katara that we see throughout the season, because in the first episode of Korra, we see that Korra has spent like much of her life already training in the elements of water, fire, and earth, and she's moving on to learning airbending. For some reason, Korra has struggled with airbending from like a child. They show like the other element she was already a pro at. She knew how to waterbend, earthbend. She knew how to waterbend obviously because she was like a natural born waterbender. But then learning earth and fire were really easy for her, but then when it came to air was always hard for her to do, and so she moves to Republic City with Aang's youngest son Tenzin to learn airbending from him. Boom. So in Republic City, in addition to being one of the few airbenders in the city, Tenzin is also a council member. So in the council, Tenzin is also on the council which governs Republic City, and I guess makes laws and ordinances and, you know, what governments do for cities. And so there are 4 members. There's Tenzin, who represents air. There's Tarlok, who represents water, who's a waterbender. And then there are these 2 unnamed council members, and then one is a woman who obviously represents fire because she wears red a lot, and then the other is a man who represents earth because he wears green often in the meetings. They don't really get many lines, if any at all, and it's unclear, as to me anyway, whether or not the fire representative and the earth representative are benders. But we know obviously that Tenzin is and Tarlok are. Amon is the main antagonist of the first season, and so Amon is really, 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 really against benders and bending in general. Amon's backstory, claimed by him anyway, is that he's a non-bender. When he was younger, he was scarred by a firebender, and he feels like bending is the source of all evil in the world, and bending needs to stop. So then somehow, some way, he communed with spirits, and they gave him the ability to take away bending from people. So Amon, he wears white menacing mask with like a red dot on it, and he goes around spewing this like anti-bending propaganda, and he's like really against it. And he has like all these followers throughout the city who are non-benders who agree with him, who are saying, you know, benders are the bane of our existence, they're the cause of all our problems, yada yada yada. And you know, the council really see him as like a villain, and so they introduce him to us as a villain because that's how they see him, because they're like, we're benders, like you going against benders is, you know, it's divisive, it's whatever, and they really don't like him. And then, you know, as a kid I was like, Amon, you're a bad guy, get out of here, like why are you messing this up? Bending is so cool, bending is great, you're wrong. But then, like, as I'm watching this first season, and I'm seeing what's happening, I start to agree with Amon. Like, I don't agree with like some of his actions throughout the season, but I definitely see there's some like there's validity in his ideals, because I mean, first of all, fire bending, the Fire Nation is the whole reason why there's only 4 airbenders in the world in this first season, because the Fire Nation wiped out the air nomads. So that already is, boom, firebenders causing problems. And then the rest of the world had 100 years of oppression under the Fire Nation, who once again used firebending. So already I can already see why that's kind of like a sore subject for people who are non-benders, who couldn't really defend themselves in The Last Airbender against these firebenders. And then boom, and then so like I'm like, okay, like, you know, that's valid or whatever, but times have changed. But not really, because in the is it the first episode? Like, I don't know if it's the first or the second episode, but one of the first few episodes, when Korra comes to Republic City, she's running through the town, and there is a scene where there's a shop owner who is being bullied by this group called the Triad, which is like a gang in Republic City, and the Triad is full of members who are benders. So I believe there's like a firebender and a waterbender, and I don't know if there's an earthbender in the group, but there's like this group of 3 men who are bullying this woman. I think she's like paying protection tax for them or something, and like she's obviously a non-bender because she's not defending herself, and if she is a bender, she's not good enough to even try to. But either way, I mean, like, in this new and improved and evolved world where the Fire Nation is no longer oppressive and everything, you still have benders taking advantage of non-benders, and like this is within like the first few episodes of the show. And then Korra comes in, obviously, like she helps the woman and she like beats up the guys and everything, and then the police come, who are like the police is just a force of metal benders because they have like these metal gears. And like, granted, they're very cool to watch, but I mean, the police are useless because it took them so long to come and help the woman. They're like, the police is like this. It's like an army. Like, they have ships, they have boats, they have cars, they have every equipment to their availability, and yet there are still like gangs running around the city and like terrorizing the citizens. And it's like the police are practically useless. They don't do much throughout the season. Each time they try to help, they get destroyed by non-benders. And it's like, I don't think the police do like the police force as a whole, I don't think they do anything productive in the season whatsoever. Chief Beifong as a singularly, yes, she does things that help the cause against Amon, but the police force as a whole, they get demolished consistently. They're really useless. It's a waste of metal. It's a waste of money and taxes, assuming that the taxes that the citizens pay go toward contributing to the police force. And it's just a waste because the police don't do anything. Korra and her friends are the main ones doing the work, and if the police do something, then it's oppressing people. But we'll get to that later. So anyway, first few episodes, you see Benders terrorizing Bending. We're right back where we were in Avatar: The Last Airbender. And then so you see these rallies, you see these people who have been oppressed by Benders following Amon. And it's like, obviously when I watched this show when I was younger, it came out, like I said, in 2012, so I was like 11, and I was like so against Amon. But then watching it now as a 19-year-old, it's like, you know, they have valid points. Benders have oppressed them for a long time, and them wanting to protest against them and protest against Benders is completely valid. Amon's group Amon's group, which are called the Equalists, and their followers, they take classes called chi blocking, which help them in combat and like temporarily stopping Benders from being able to use their powers. Amon and his followers are teaching non-Benders how to use this method to, you know, defend themselves against Benders. Once again, I think this is completely valid. When I was younger, I was like, why do they need that? They're terrible people. But now it's like, it's kind of like an insurance. The Benders have literally the elements at their disposal, and non-Benders have what? Practically nothing. So this chi blocking is a good way to defend themselves. They don't talk very much in the beginning of the season if the council hates Amon because because like I said, we don't know as an audience if the fire and the earth representative of the council are Benders. I'm gonna assume they are, but first of all, that's already a problem. There's no non-Bender representation on the governing council, so you have everyone looking from a Bender's perspective in laws and everything that affect them. And I also think that plays a part into them villainizing Amon instead of like hearing him out and saying, you know what, maybe Amon has a point. Maybe we should meet Amon halfway, get some representatives that are non-Benders on the council, talk to Amon, make sure that we do a better job of stopping Benders in our own city from oppressing the non-bending citizens. They don't do that. I don't know if they did that before, but before we even off screen, before we even see anything, and then boom, they tried everything they could to help assuage him, and they didn't work, or what. But we just jump in hot. Amon is the villain. We're doing everything to stop him no matter what. Which is dumb because, like I said, they have valid points. They want to protect themselves against Benders. So then, to prove the point, what really made me say Amon is definitely right to prove is that Tarlok, once again, who's the waterbending representative on the council, he forms a task squad to take down Amon and his Equalists. And so to prove the point that Amon is a bad guy, he recruits Korra, and then Tarlok, Korra, and the task force, they discover a chi blocking class. They raid the class. Them and their group of Benders raid the class. And Korra, first of all, Korra alone uses a combination of earth bending and water bending to just demolish these non-Benders who are known as chi blockers and who are these Equalists. So she's like using her earth bending to pick up like a slab of stone from the wall and use it to like smash a non-Bender against the wall. She's using ice, and she's just like she's freezing these Equalists in blocks of ice. And I don't know if hypothermia works the same way in the world of The Last Airbender / Legend of Korra, but here I feel like if you're frozen in a block of ice, you're practically dead. And especially if you're a non-Bender, maybe for like a water bender you can do something to help with that. But like as a non-Bender, if you're frozen in a block of ice, like you're dead. It's frostbite in seconds, if minutes, if not seconds. And that's happening. And like it's so weird because to prove the point that Benders are good and they're bad, Benders are using their bending to abuse non-Benders. So like they're essentially proving Amon's point in trying to stop him. And once again, no one is saying, okay, Amon, we hear you, we see you, let's make some policy changes to help you out, to help, like I said, to help assuage Amon and his followers. No, like I said, Amon can take away people's bending, but he initially starts off taking away criminals' bending. The leaders of the Triad, which, like, once again is a big gang in Republic City, he makes a big spectacle of taking away their bending and making sure they can't terrorize non-benders again. And like they show, I believe this is the first case of them showing Amon actually being able to take away bending, and it's supposed to be like this big scary revelation that he can actually do this. And on one hand, it's like, whoa, like he can actually do this. But on the other hand, I was like, you go, Amon. The council who run the city obviously aren't doing much to stop the Triad from abusing their power. The police aren't either. Korra had to beat up the Triad in the beginning, and the police came and arrested her for helping out. So they're obviously not doing what needs to be done to stop the Triad from terrorizing the non-benders. So Amon taking it upon himself to take away the bending, the very tool that they use to oppress others. I was all for it. I was like, I don't see anything wrong with this. You're trying to make me feel bad because you're taking away a mob boss's power. But honestly, it could be worse. He could have died. He's not. He can live. He can't bend. Boom. And I don't feel bad at all. Now the police can arrest him and say, hey, you're under arrest without having to worry about him breaking out of jail because of his bending. As far as I'm concerned, in that one moment, Amon was doing the Lord's work. He was just doing what needed to be done. And so after that, I'm like, you know what? Go Amon, go Amon, go Amon. But then he takes it overboard and is like, he makes it hard to root for him afterwards, because then he takes away Lin Beifong's bending, who is the chief of police, and he starts taking away different benders' powers because he wants everyone to be equal. He wants no bending whatsoever. And then that's when I'm like, okay, like, you know, I was all down for you. I was like down for you taking away the bending of those who abuse their powers, but not of just like some average Joe Blow who uses their bending to, I don't know, just uses their bending for fun, or just to continue their way of life without harming others. So then I was like, okay, Amon, like I'm not vibing with this at all. When Amon takes control of the city, he makes bending completely illegal. And then so I was like, okay, Amon, like, you know, I was with you up to a certain point, but now you're just going out of hand. But I still, I think I started disagreeing with his methods, but I still fundamentally agree with his idea, because, like I said, throughout the entire show, we see benders use their bending to abuse people. When Lin Beifong steps down as police chief because she's embarrassed of her failure as a chief, she was a failure as a chief, I'm not gonna lie. She was a failure. But then when she steps down, Chief Saikon steps up as the chief of police, and he works very closely with Tarlok, who once again is the waterbending councilman, to help try to crack down on the Equalists in their reign of terror. And, you know, at first it's like, because at this point Amon has been abusing his powers and has been terrorizing all benders instead of just benders who abuse their powers. And so I'm like, okay, like, you know, crack down on him. Now I see that he is a threat, and this rhetoric has gotten dangerous and out of control. But Tarlok and Saikon crack down on non-benders who have nothing to do with the Equalist movement. They're just average Joe Blow, regular non-benders, in the same way that Amon is taking away the bending of benders who have nothing to do with the oppression of non-benders. So, like, both sides have fundamental flaws, because Saikon and Tarlok, they incorporate this mandatory curfew for non-benders only. They cut off the power of non-benders who are out past curfew when they're out and then they arrest the non-benders and say, oh, like, this is an equalist rally and we don't want equalist rallying anymore. This is illegal. I'm throwing you in jail. Despite the people just protesting their power being off. And then Korra obviously steps in and says, like, these people aren't equalists. They're just upset because you cut off their power. You're oppressing them. You need to stop. Tarlok doesn't care. The chief of police don't care. They're essentially doing the same thing to non-benders that Amon is doing to benders, thinking they're helping. They're not. They're making it worse. If I was a non-bender being falsely arrested as an equalist, I was like, you know, let me join the equalists. If I'm going to be arrested for being an equalist, I may as well join the equalist cause and stop the benders. So, like, once again, I can see their point and why they hate benders so much, because they do have that advantage of having those powers over non-benders, regular non-benders who aren't affiliated with the equalists. They're being oppressed. I could walk down the street with my groceries, and if an earthbender wants to say, give me your groceries right now and all your money, and he uses his earthbending skills against me, I I have bags of groceries. What am I gonna do against an earthbender? So I do see the Equalists' ideals in that. But then at the end of the season, woof, big reveal, Amon is actually a bloodbender, and he's a brother of council member Tarlok. Tarlok doesn't know this through much of the first season, but then once Tarlok gets his bending taken away, he realizes that Amon is his brother. And this is where I'm like, okay, like, I didn't agree with Amon's methods, but him being a waterbender, I feel like took away a lot of his merit, and I know that was on purpose by the writers. But I really wish they had kept him as a non-bender who the spirits had given him the ability to take away people's bending, because I feel like it was a lazy way to get the Equalists to disband, because once the Equalists saw, oh, Amon is a waterbender, he wasn't really scarred on the face by firebenders, everything has been a lie, we're not going to follow him anymore. That's essentially what happened once everyone found out that he was a waterbender, and I feel like that was a very lazy way to dismiss the Equalist movement at the end of the season, and then like we never hear about it again in the continuing seasons, because each season there's a new antagonist. So like we never hear about the Equalist movement again. So, but I feel like him being a waterbender was like just really dumb, because like I said, it was like a dumb way to get the Equalist movement to disband. Oh, it was based off a lie. He was a waterbender the whole time. I'm not following him anymore. I'm no longer an Equalist. Which is stupid because even if Amon, like, he is a waterbender, he did lie about being scarred by a firebender or whatever, about his backstory. His points were still correct. They weren't founded they were founded on a lie on his behalf, but on other people's behalf who have been scarred, who have had their parents taken away by benders, firebenders especially, because like I said, the 100-Year War, that's all true. And the oppression that non-benders face throughout the city is still true, regardless of whether or not Amon is a waterbender. So them just saying, oh, Amon is a waterbender, let's pack it up, folks, we're no longer Equalists, that's so stupid to me. And that's why I really wish he had still been a non-bender and Korra had found another way to get rid of him, instead of outing him as a bender and making him flee the city because, oh, my reputation has been ruined because they now know the truth. Like I said, if I was a non-bender and if I was a true Equalist, yeah, I would be hurt that he lied about being a non-bender, but the ideals of the campaign were still there. I as an Equalist was still oppressed by a bender, and I still dislike benders for using their powers to oppress me. So why does it matter? Like, in the end, why does it matter that he's a waterbender? So like I said, that was like my main pet peeve of season 1, was that Amon turned out to be a waterbender, and essentially the writers use that to just dismiss Amon. Amon reminds me very much of like many villains that we see in media, where they have those sympathetic villains who have the right idea but the wrong execution. So it's very much like Killmonger in Black Panther. Killmonger wants Wakanda to share their resources with black people across the world who are being oppressed and are living in poverty and everything, and he's saying Wakanda has resources to help these black people out. Why are you doing nothing? Why are you just sitting here on this mountain of vibranium wealth and allowing people who look just like you to die, essentially, and to die as being inferior and less than in the eyes of these societies around the world? And he's 100% right. He's 100% right. But also him wanting to take Wakanda's weapons and to kill the people in charge of these societies and their children, then it starts to be like, okay, like, I was with you, but you lost the plot right then and there, because I was with you, but then boom, wrong way. I'm like 3 episodes into season 2 of Legend of Korra, so I don't quite remember how drastically Republic City was changed after Amon. I know there's a president of Republic City, I believe, but I don't quite know how drastically Republic City was changed after Amon, and if any policies were made, or if they cracked down on benders using their powers to oppress people at all. But yeah, overall the season was really great. It's great to see. Like, I loved and I still do love The Last Airbender, and to see that world and to see them build upon that world was just amazing and great. The season overall is entertaining and it's very enjoyable, and I do enjoy it a lot. I enjoy Korra as an avatar and as a character, and I do very much like The Legend of Korra. I wish people would stop comparing it to The Last Airbender, because yes, they're in the same world, but they are still two totally different shows and two different works of art, despite being, made from the same creators. So it's not going to be exactly the same, and you have to learn how to separate that from The Last Airbender and really appreciate it for what it is as a standalone show. That being said, I love The Legend of Korra. I will continue watching it. I don't know if I'll have any more videos discussing Legend of Korra. I guess it depends on how strongly I feel about talking about it, but that was my rant on The Legend of Korra and how Amon was right. Like I said, throughout the show, they do nothing but prove that he is right. The police and the council in Republic City are practically useless when it comes to defending its citizens. And yeah, season 1, great start to the series. I look forward to rewatching the rest of the series in the following weeks, days, however long it takes me. I'm watching like a whole bunch of other shows right now. I'm watching Degrassi, I'm watching Doom Patrol, I'm watching Young Justice, I'm watching Moesha. I started watching The Game, but they're very irritating, so I got like 3 episodes in, and I definitely won't be continuing it because they're just annoying and I don't like it at all. But yeah, thanks for tuning into this week's video on why Amon was right. If you liked this video, be sure to check out my other rant. Just make sure to like, comment, what do you think? What do you think Amon was correct in The Legend of Korra? Why or why not? Would you have been an equalist if you were a non-bender? Would you have just minded your own business? I want to know. If you have any suggestions on what shows or movies or anything you want to hear me talk about next, feel free to also leave that in the comment section. But yeah, thanks for tuning in.